Okay, welcome to another episode. This is episode 14.
Yep.
And we're going to be talking about... I'm so sorry, I'm going to have to say this, okay? The church being full of hoes and simps.
It's a church, a retirement place for hoes and simps.
Oh, the church, a retirement place for what? Hoes and simps. Okay, so just before we kick off, don't forget to like, subscribe, share our content on Instagram, Facebook, X, and also listen to the podcast on Spotify as well.
Yep.
So Jude needs to kick this off because Jude put this topic in the group chat and I read it and I was like, what? The church is a retirement place for hoes and simps? I didn't quite get the angle that it was taken, because obviously, as everybody knows, I don't believe in the concept of a hoe.
Okay.
But that's my personal take.
Okay. I don't believe in the concept of a hoe too, but for the sake of argument and for this show today, now, it came as a result of, I don't follow them, but they're on my timeline. They come up, I think, because their pages are very active on X. And these dudes, I think, majority of them are followers of the Tate guy from Romania. So they all exhibit toxic, sometimes just the man masculinity online. Okay, They talk a lot. I don't know if they walk as well. So it's all about dissing women. It's all about, according to them, building men up, young kings as they call themselves, to always attain a certain stature in society, which is good. Telling people to be clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Clean up, take care of your nails, take care of wear clean boxers, socks, and all of that. That's the sort of people they are. But at the end of every sentence, it's almost as if it's a battle between dudes and females. So they're always saying, if you go to a club, you met a girl, you asked her for a number one, she ain't giving you, just forget her, move to the next one. Like, is that why you were brought to F? Anyway, on Twitter recently, they were saying there was a lady's picture, short snap of her life. Yeah. From where she was, I don't know, sniffing cocaine, vomiting, drinking a lot of club, doing what they call the hoeing, jacking her ass up, twerking and all of that, wearing very short dresses where you could even see her private and all of that. And that tragedy shows where she's moved from that lifestyle. She's now claiming she's in the church, she's clean, and she's ready. So these dudes are saying, here we go. This is a tragedy of a whole. Between the ages of 18 and 30, they would have gone through body counts of 50, and now they're tired. They want to come to the church as a retirement home and then catch simps. And simps will be men who don't know the game, don't know how to play the game. They're just waiting. And then they will end up marrying this, but that's what it is. Interesting. So for me, I think the first thing, honestly, like the fact that they spent time to even discuss this is ridiculous. Yeah. And also another thing is, what do people expect when they go to church? Because I always say this, right? In terms of when you're in church and Christianity, the sole goal of even winning souls is for you to go out there and bring like sinners essentially to Christ. Yeah. So are we expecting that the people that are in church, because if they were unblemished and they were clean and innocent, there would be no need for them to be there. There will be no need for church. I think that's no need for church. That's exactly when I conversate with these dudes. I'd say things like out of experience, because I see them as boys. Yeah. And I did a video recently. That's what I said. I see them as boys who the breast milk of their mom is not really dried from their mouth, so they're still kids. Yeah. But they're just coming up to show like they're macho. It's since the rise of Tate. Yeah. That's when they become this whole discussion like we can't show macho out on the street, but let's show it on Twitter. So they're keyboard warriors. That's what I call them. Because the church is supposed to be a place where people who are not safe and willing to be saved come to. So if you expect it's a redemptive place. That's the whole point. It is what they said. So we're expected to have thieves, arm robbers, foreigners, criminals, everybody, all sorts in the church. Yeah, because they're coming there to be saved. Now you're judging them, saying, you've got a past, I know, but stay out of the church. Stay out of the church. Go continue in your past or be somewhere else. So that's very judgmental. Extremely judgmental. That's the picture. But my concern is these boys are very, very influential. They have large followership. Yeah. So whatever they post out there, they get views of, we're talking millions. Yeah. Hundreds of thousands. And they're getting repost and post. And these are by other young men. Yeah, exactly. And women don't get involved in the conversation because they will just slaughter them out there. And it's sad because I'm like, the next generation are consuming this this ideology, these concepts, which in my view, I think are very retrogressive. Yeah. Because sometimes I sit back and I'm like, we've done all this work, right, in terms of women's rights. If you look at feminism and like the different waves of feminism and the fight for womanhood, the right for women to work, all these like fantastic things that has come about from the women's movement. And now I sit back, right, and I'm on the internet and I almost feel like we're retrogressing because the content that it's everywhere. And for me, I always say this, what I'm worried about is young people consuming this content.
Oh, no,
and then, like I say, like exhibiting these behaviors.
They are already
because
doing
I have a friend who's a teacher and she always complains about when she's teaching, like the things that these young kids are saying. She's like, what is going on?
Yeah, because parents have allowed these so-called guys on the internet, these influencers become their, the way... they've allowed that those people become their children's teacher or parents, so to speak. Because what do we do these days? We're in the house. We don't want to be disturbed. Every of our kids have got their phones out.
Them tablets,
we don't even know what they're watching.
True.
So they're probably watching Andrew Tate. They're probably watching that other lady. Probably watching, I don't know who they're watching, who's telling them things that they should say out there. So it's our duty to say, hey, those views are not accepted.
No, they're
whether
not.
Here or
Absolutely
outside.
not acceptable.
What they're saying is, and they move on from that to say, kings should be aiming to marry a virgin. I'm like, that's fine. It's a good aim.
I mean,
but also, it's a good ambition.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, though, I have also seen groups on Instagram or Twitter saying, wow, it's not good to marry a virgin because at the end of the day, when they marry a virgin, because she's never had sex before, she's useless in bed. Now you're going out to get it. So why are you deceiving yourself? One hand, you want a virgin. The other hand, you want somebody who's experienced in bed. How do you become experienced in bed if you've never had sex before? So that's why I said these people who call themselves young kids, they're really kids.
Yeah,
they've not really experienced life.
And I think a lot of times they contradict themselves. And sometimes
they do contradict themselves.
And sometimes I sit back and just from a critical perspective, I say that as young men, right, you want to be sexually active with women.
Yeah,
but on the same flip side,
you don't want the women to be active.
But you don't want the women. So who are the women you want to be sexually active with?
That's the question. So that's why
it baffles me so much.
It comes from a place or minds of people who are not really developed. They're still kids.
Yeah.
They're still people who crave baby milk. They're not developed because you need to have an all-round conversation, not just be everything about woman. They talk about you go out there, you dress in a certain way, smell nice, talk to a lady. If she don't respond, move on to the next one, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's just
But you know what it is?
That.
And also, it's also about not seeing, when you talk about, in terms of like the way that they speak about women, it's like you not seeing the humanity in the
That's exactly
sex.
what it is. So a woman has become a piece of meat.
Just a piece of something that, and it's like, okay, you're here for my sexual gratification.
That's what it is.
And for me to masturbate with your body.
Look at Andrew Tate.
That's it.
Look at Andrew Tate. He's talking about a man has no right to be just sulking and he has to dream, which is great. You have to live above average, which is great. But then he goes to talk about, look at me, I have these cars. I don't know whether that makes him a man. I have this, I have that, I have that, I have that. And then goes on to say, that's the time the woman will respect you. That's why I just went, what? So all of this you're doing, all of this life you're living, all of this big manism you're doing it because of a woman to like you. That's the most of all pathetic men on earth. If that's all you're doing, you're trying to get muscles, you're trying to buy beaters, you achieve everything just to attain a woman's respect. A human like you.
And you know what's so funny? And I say
I want to conquer men. I don't want to conquer women. I want to conquer the world, not because of a woman.
And the funniest thing is, every time I say this, I always say this, right? Men will say, oh, women these days are so materialistic. They want you to have this. They want you to do this. They want you to do that. But in the same vein, like the type of men that you put on a pedestal, right, are the men who have material things. Yes. So like men set the standards of saying that as a man, in order for you
to be a man's man,
you need to have this, you need to have that, you need to have that. So you set this standard and then you flip it around and say that, oh, these days women are materialistic, but actually you set the standard of what manhood is. So it's about you challenging the idea, which is why sometimes I'm like, I sit there and I'm like, why are you, if you actually look at it, because I always say, if you look at the different like feminist schools and the people that are pushing against the idea of there being a homogenous masculinity view and pushing back on that, it's so that the patriarchal idea of what manhood is challenged. So that as a man, you don't feel like, yo, my value as a man is in what I can provide, because that inherently, right? I always say this to people, and I'm never gonna say this. You're inherently valuable by being a human being, in my opinion.
Of course, yes.
And your value doesn't increase or decrease based on what you acquire.
Yeah, but I think for them it increases because of the woman by the side. So they want a virgin. They don't want a hoe or a retired hoe. So again, going back, so the question is, the church ain't a retirement home for hoes. So what is the church then? What is the church for? If it's not a retirement for hoes or for drug dealers, because the equivalent of men, there are men who prostitute themselves as well. If they came to the church, I don't think we should push them out.
Oh, no, of course not. But I think
if they found love in the church,
and I say this
should
all
a
the
woman
time.
be judged because of her past? Like she slept with 20 old men between 10 years, and now, but she stopped and she said, we'll move on. Should she be judged about all of that and the man not judged?
It just doesn't make sense. And that's one thing I'm never, and it's a double standard. The double standard in society, the double standard in religion, everywhere. And
so it's okay for the guy to conquer as many women and get the experiences.
Yeah, and get the experiences. But as a woman,
expect to marry a virgin.
You don't, expect to marry a virgin. And as a woman, you don't get that same grace.
But there's a dude who's just married a virgin now and he's complaining to that. He met a virgin in the church, and not all women in the church are women, because he went ranting. He said, please run from pastors' daughters, run from deaconess' daughters, run from elders' daughters, because they are worse than the ones out there. So I'm saying...
But this is the thing, right? And this is something that I'm never going to stop saying, especially as somebody who, like, I go to church every Sunday, very active in church. And I say this all the time, right? When, in terms of when people go into church and they think, okay, I'm looking for a spouse, great, you can, especially, there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Let me just say that. But the bottom line is that, and I'm never, like you said I think in a previous episode, where you have like people wear different masks.
Yeah.
And depending on where they are, people will put up a front. Yeah. And unfortunately, because in terms of when you think about church, for a lot of people, right, they go into church and they assume that they have to appear as if they are perfect. So people put a mask. They'll put forward like a completely different personality, and they're not authentic.
Well, that's the thing.
Because they know that they're being judged. Church is no longer a place where you can come as you are. Yeah. You come in there to put up an appearance and to pretend that you've never sinned in your life.
Church is not a place where people come again as they are, but in that same church is where they sing, just as I am, without one plea to God.
And it's a shame.
It is a shame. I, for one, though, growing up as a young man, I would say the church is not a place to marry. And the reason for that was based on the hypocrisy that we saw growing up, because you go in the church and you see those older than you, like the dudes and the girls, and you come out of church, they're doing everything contrary to what they've just been preaching there. Yeah. So we were quite disturbed, so we tagged the church as not a place to ever go play around. And then we became that adults who went into church and did the same thing we were complaining about.
But you know what?
Just an endless cycle.
Of course, it's a perpetuating cycle.
It was. I was in Christ Embassy one time and I had 2 girlfriends. So at one time in my life, and that was exactly what we were saying. My God, man, a lot of hypocrisy here. No. I accepted the tag of a hypocrite at the time because I didn't hide it. I would leave the church immediately. I'm running straight to the beer parlor and drinking. And with my, you know what I mean? So I would go to 8 to 10 service with a girl. As that one goes, I will pass the other one and come with the other one for 10 to 12.
That's a lot of stress.
It is, but again, it's almost like is that spirit that's saying, "Oh, you have to conquer all of that." That's what all of this is led to.
Yeah.
Should the church become a retirement home? No, the church should be a place and a home for everyone.
For everybody, regardless of what your past is.
But the question, though, should people keep their past life private, not just from their spouse, or not just from their person is dating now, but from the internet, everything. Should you keep it private?
One thing I will say is,
so you don't be judged, and let God be the judge.
I think this is one thing that I would say. I think especially when you get to, I think there's certain information that you need to be aware that you cannot share with certain people, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yes, fair enough. It's your right, and this might be your experience, but there's certain people that, in my opinion, do not have the maturity. And they shouldn't be privileged to certain information about
you.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's not about you pretending or trying to. It's just understanding. And I always say this, the fact that just generally, people are very unkind. So
it's human.
Very,
it's
very, very extremely unkind. So when they're going through their struggles and they're going through their issues, they expect grace. But when it's flipped on you, they don't give you that same grace that they expected when they were in that period.
Yeah, but it's true,
and it's such a shame.
Yeah. So I guess also it turns everything on its head. Like they no longer trust church. No one sees church as that holy place and sacrosanct again.
Yeah.
Or people really don't trust the power of God anymore.
Yeah.
Because if they trust the power of God to wipe away your sins and your past and accept that grace,
you
won't be judgmental.
Even the concept of being born again, of being a born again Christian, is the whole point of it is that all your old sins are wiped away.
Yeah.
It's crazy that then people turn around.
No, but because that's why they don't believe in that concept anymore. Because exactly what it is. That girl should be, because in the Bible, I think Christ gave the example of the talents. No, not the talents. Somebody who lost a coin. Yeah. And had like 99, but went out looking for that one. And lost a sheep as well. Went out looking for that sheep. That was a representative of the story of a sinner. Mm-hmm. So they rejoiced. So the kingdom of God rejoices over one that has been saved. Not the 99 that pretends they're saved already. That one. So that story of that lady should elicit joy.
Of course.
In genuine people and say, my God, you are saved.
I'm so
Thank
happy.
God, I'm happy for you. But
instead, you come to Christ. But instead, people on the internet saying,
I say, you're not good, though. This is not a retirement home for hoes. You pack your bag and go. Where?
And
we appear God-like, but we don't have the God qualities.
Oh, no, we don't at all. Oh,
we appear Christ-like, but without the Christ-like qualities.
No, we don't.
We open our arms, but at the same time, our heart rejects. This is why I don't go to church.
Yeah.
Because I won't judge that person. I'll see you for who you say you are now until otherwise.
Yes.
But folks in church are saying it's not a retirement place. For then where's the church? My money is good for you, but my past lifestyle ain't good for you.
And it just goes against everything of what church and Christianity stands for.
Well, anyway, young kings online, whatever your opinions are, keep them to yourselves. And also get the milk to dry off your head first before you come online and be giving opinions. And if you're part of the Tate group, remain with Tate. Get fed by Tate and all of that. But Tate himself has got his own issues to deal with. One day the mask will be off his face.
Yep.
And the whole world will, not the whole world, because the whole world really don't care about him. His own group will come out to know who he is. No, it's what it is.
Yeah.
I just think there's need for pushback.
Oh, definitely.
For all of these ideas, because we have children that are listening to these things.
Of course, and they're consuming it, and they're impressionable.
Unhealthy ideas in their head outside. And you'll be surprised how far this has gone. It's permeates so many people in society, not just young people. Even adults are beginning to exhibit this similar ideas, and they begin to say, things like what we've just said. Mm-hmm. It's one law for men, it's one law for
women.
Anyway, we've come to the end, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, subscribe, and listen to our podcast on YouTube and Spotify. Cheerio.
Goodbye.